And now, live from Nashville, Tennessee, it's the Dave Nemo Show.
Yes, indeed. We're going to kind of wrap up our stint here in our hotel studio at the Galt House here in downtown Nashville. Then we'll be heading over to the Mid-America Trucking Show a little bit later on this morning. But we want to say good morning to Lou and Matt Conti and Randy Sanford from Fierce Fuel Systems. And I said, you want to stay tuned for this because this is really fascinating. But first off, good morning, Lou.
Good morning. Thank you for having us today, Dave.
Man, it's great to have you. Matthew, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And Randy, it's good to see you.
Good morning, Dave.
Good to see you in person. We see you on the video on the website, but we'll point folks there in just a little bit. But fiercefuelsystems.com is the website. You know, when we talk about inventions, Lou, or innovations in terms of alternative fuels, a lot of folks just turn that light switch off immediately. They don't want to hear it because they don't believe it in the first place. And they think, oh, man, who is this guy? He's going to reinvent the wheel. The beautiful thing about what you guys are doing is it's proven technology going back to the 1930s.
That is correct.
But at the same time, in the trucking industry, folks don't know about it because up until you guys, it hasn't been possible in trucking. And there's a story there, and I thought maybe if we did nothing else this morning but kind of unravel that a little bit to give folks an idea of where you're coming from and what an incredibly solid foundation what you're doing is in terms of fuel and water emulsification. So in that term, I think I'm just going to get a history lesson here from you.
Sure, be happy to provide you some insights. Diesel water emulsions have been around since the 1930s. They're recognized both nationally and internationally. They've been primarily used on terminal base operations, also mining operations, as well as marine applications. So they've been around, and tragically enough, it's always required a large refinery system where large motors, 50 to 250 horsepower motors, are used to emulsify fuel together. What we looked at because of this was the challenges. We looked at a number of alternative fuels, and we see one of the shortfalls as always being the lack of infrastructure. The testing that has been done both nationally and internationally is proven that diesel water emulsions work and they do save money. The challenge has always been startups and shutdowns, as well as the lack of infrastructure. So what we did was we took a look at some 250 tests that were done by universities and technical schools and many science labs. And we looked at all the positives and negatives and developed a systematic methodologies so that we can integrate an onboard mini refinery for a semi-truck. So that's really fundamentally how it works. It's been recognized in a number of countries in Europe, France, Italy, Germany, the UK, Spain, Portugal, just to name a few, all recognize diesel water emulsions as an alternative fuel. It's also recognized by both the EPA and CARB as an alternative fuel. Back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, Caterpillar, in a partnership with Lubrizol, was really pushing for diesel water emulsion as an alternative fuel. It reduces emissions, it improves mileage if done correctly, and provides what's known as low temperature combustion. And in doing that, you're able to get better mileage as well as reduce emissions significantly. So that's really the history, I guess, on diesel water emulsions. We did not create it. We did not invent it. What we did do in our offices or out of our corporate office in Detroit was develop an engineered solution so that this could be readily adapted on board to a vehicle. And the infrastructure literally is on the catwalk of your truck. So there's no looking for stations to fill fuel. There's no need to find anything other than regular diesel fuel and water. So with that ability, you give the long-term haulers the opportunity and the ability to travel wherever they want without having to look for a special station that's selling our particular product.
I always like to try to draw some parallels to maybe nail things down a little bit. And I'm thinking of the president of IBM back in the 1950s making a statement that nobody would ever need a computer in their home. That's one of the classic, quotes of all time, in terms of, uh-oh. But think about computers in the 60s and 70s even. They were rooms full of machines with false floors for all of the cabling and wiring underneath. And now Apple just came out with a wristwatch, sort of like Dick Tracy. I'm looking at a laptop right here. So who would have ever thought that technology could have been pared down to something as small and better than those rooms full of IBM-type computers in those days? Not to put down on IBM, but those were the folks who were making them at the time, and they were the only ones.
Exactly.
What you're saying is that the technology that Fierce Fuel Systems is using, diesel emulsifying with water, and we'll explain what that means in just a little bit in terms of the molecular structure and how the water is encapsulated. It's always been working. It's always worked from day one, but in certain applications, where you have a stationary engine, that's a pretty big engine,
correct,
powering, mining or shipping. But then you have to have the infrastructure around that to do the emulsification and to keep it emulsified. Because, it's like medicine when you get it. Absolutely. Those are emulsions too. And what does it say? Shake well before using, correct, right? So there's the challenge.
That's correct.
It's not about what's in the bottle. It's about how you can get that emulsification going in that little bottle as opposed to as a laboratory. I know I'm kind of going around a circle here, but I'm just trying to make the point that it's nothing new. It's proven, and that should, be enough for folks to say, okay, this is for real. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So now what you've done, the other thing you've said is infrastructure, and what you meant by that is, well, you got to have, like, if you're going to use some kind of an alternative fuel, guess what? Now we have to have all of these fueling stations built along the interstates, the hydrogen highway, the electric highway, and all of that stuff.
Absolutely.
What you're talking about, it's already all there. You got diesel fuel and you got water. Now, it's already been done on the large stationary scale. Your challenge that you basically have met and put into place is how to do it on a small mobile scale on the truck.
That is absolutely correct, Dave. What we should clarify is that this is really targeted for old technology trucks, 2011 and older. So pre-high pressure common rail systems where the pressures are at 20,000 to 40,000 PSIs. And we really looked at it at a number of ways. First of all, the presidential mandate and the federal mandates to improve mileage and emissions on newer trucks is a wonderful thing. I don't think anybody can deny the benefits that are being brought forward. But the biggest issue we saw was that there's still, 2.4 million trucks out there that are not being addressed by this. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit of a science experiment in the sense that we had to figure out how to make it work on a truck. But the technology itself has been widely used on large shipping freighters, ocean liners, locomotives in Europe. Bus companies are using it extensively in Europe. So it is a proven technology that we retrofitted and modified in order to be able to make it seamless to the drivers. Randy has been with us for 4 years, and Randy's been driving our truck after about 10 or 11 years as a commercial long distance hauler, and I'll let him speak to the benefits of that. But in reality, this technology has been around for since the 1930s, but really refined significantly since the late 1980s, and it's widely used in Europe.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, Randy, let's talk about that. When folks go to the website, fiercefuelsystems.com, they'll see a short video, and you are in the video. You're doing a demo right there. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That demo I'll be doing at the truck show all weekend here, so I want to invite everybody listening out here to come and see me do this thing live. I'm going to be mixing 25% water with diesel fuel and running the truck as well. So, I've had the opportunity to drive this thing all over the country, running 20, 30, even 40% water without any issues.
We were talking last night. In fact, we had dinner together last night, and Tim Ridley was there. And of course, Tim has been a company owner through the years. He's been in trucking all of his life. He was asking you about, what kind of gears do you have? Do you have to add some, downshift a little bit more going up hills? And you said, no, it's just about like anything else. I mean, you don't even know it's. I guess if you put a driver in and they didn't know that the system was on the truck, they didn't look at the, back of the cab there on the catwalk to see that the emulsification plant is there, right. And it's a small scale. I mean, it fits on the back. They wouldn't even probably realize that there was something going on back there. No,
they would not. It's a seamless operation. If I didn't know what was going on within the inside of the box, then I wouldn't know whether it was on or off. It's seamless.
We're going to talk to Matthew in just a little bit about something that you just said, Lou, about the older trucks. But one of the challenges that you had when in the traditional applications for diesel emulsification, you had somebody there tending it. That was their job. And they were keeping it going. They were making sure that the emulsifier engines were working, that the formulas were going through to the target engine, if you will, and it all works. Obviously, you can't. It's almost like a conductor on a train. You have the engineer, you got the brakeman, you got the conductor. You can't have that on a truck. So a lot of this had to be automated. And Randy, you just said it. It's a seamless operation.
That is correct, Dave. What we've done is we've automated the startup process, the shutdown process. We monitor data coming from the CAN bus where it's available on the newer trucks. We've put these units on trucks as old as the mid-1980s. We've run them on CATs. We've run them on Detroit diesels. We've run them on Cummins ISX engines. And interestingly enough, we picked up a Pete with a CAT that's got 1.3 million miles on it, and you could not tell the difference between running it. The guy that owned the truck from brand new cannot tell the difference when we're running on water versus when we're running on diesel water or regular fuel. So from a dynamic perspective, we monitor the emulsified mix. We carefully measure the amount of emulsifier that goes in. We also monitor the fuel temperature, the fallout rate, engine temperature, and a number of these variables. The driver simply has to turn it on, and then at the point where he's ready to shut it off at night, turn it off, and it'll ask him, are you shutting down? And so by pushing the yes button on the liquid crystal display, the system goes through about a 3-minute shutdown process, which purges all of the diesel water emulsion, sequesters it in the tank, and then replenishes the entire system with virgin diesel fuel. So when you start it up the next morning, it starts right up. Indeed. It's truly seamless.
Yeah, indeed. Now, Matthew, let's talk about the guys with the older trucks. We all know, and I can say this because I'm one of them. Okay. A lot of folks in this industry that have been around a lot, well, maybe too long in some cases, yours truly included. But buying a new truck, my goodness, $150,000.
They're expensive, yeah.
How do you get your return on investment in the amount of time that you may stay in the industry? You want to retire. But now we have all of these new regs and things coming out. We have all of these new parameters. So you want to hang on to a truck that's served you well. You love the truck.
Right.
It's served you well. It's made a great living for you. Why get rid of it? And these are the exact people that you're targeting.
Yeah. It's to a driver, a truck is more than just a truck. It's kind of like his home. He's there 2-3 weeks at a time, sleeping in it, and just being in that truck. Like I said, it's like their second home. So a lot of them don't want to get rid of it, or really can't afford to get rid of it.
Well, that's the point too.
A new truck, like you were saying, it's not cheap. So if there's a way that we can help them out and make sure that they can keep their truck that they have and still be able to use it and drive it and, save a little money, put a little bit more money in their pockets, I think is a benefit for everybody. So,
Lou, you pointed out when we were talking last night, too, that, sure, the new trucks are great. They have a lot of good stuff on them, the emissions control, the DPF, the after treatment, and all of that. But what could go wrong? Just about everything, and it has, and there's a pretty good percentage of failure. Now, that's new technology, and that's going to happen. But man, that puts a guy like Matthew's talking about in a pretty severe trick bag there.
Well, the problem that the new trucks are experiencing, and it's not a secret to anyone. You've got a combination of new technologies that haven't been fully proven out and stood the test of time, in addition to a huge technical hurdle that the maintenance crews that are responsible for keeping these trucks on the road have to overcome. So when you combine those two things, you end up with significant downtime. The beauty of the old trucks are that, you get it in the morning and it starts and it runs and it runs and it runs. We've had trucks with up to almost 2 million miles. We purchased a truck at 1.3 million simply so we could test to see how this thing works on older trucks. And the beauty of the older trucks, obviously, is the reliability, the lower level of capital investment. And ultimately, if you can give those people a little bit of an edge up by improving their mileage and reducing their emissions, it's a win-win for everybody. Our ROI is typically about 12 months. It can go as high as 18, but if a gentleman's driving 120,000 miles a year, he can expect a complete payback on the system in 8 to 10 months at today's dollar.
If it didn't it wouldn't have existed. This technology and this methodology wouldn't have existed for 80, 90 years if it didn't work.
Well, that's right.
I mean, if it didn't work, it would have, because it started during the Depression years, for one thing.
That's correct.
And it certainly wouldn't have made it through the World War II years had it not worked. So let's just forget about it not working. It works. It has worked. It is working. The older truck and this technology put together really rejuvenates, and you go positive cash flow from the moment you crank it up.
Well, that is correct. And we talk about older trucks. We shouldn't forget gliders either.
I was going to bring up gliders because that is the perfect marriage, it seems.
Yeah. Absolutely. And with respect to all of those opportunities and applications, diesel water emulsions have been around, as you said, since the 1930s. It's been proven to work on large displacement diesel engines. It's been proven to work on small displacement diesel engines. In Europe, you can literally go to a gas station and buy diesel water emulsion for your car. So the methodology works.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Shell and a couple of other companies actually have their own refineries in Italy and in Spain and in Portugal. And you can buy what they call white diesel. And what that is a diesel water emulsified fuel. So you can purchase it at the pump in Europe. It's a little odd to us because we don't see it here. Mm-hmm. The biggest problem has always been the challenges. So, like you explained, in the old days, you had to tend to it. So large generators, large ships always had engineers babysitting these systems to make sure everything worked. What we've done is automated all of that. And really, installation is really quite simple. You have a 12-volt positive and negative connection. You splice into the fuel line and the fuel return line. And that's really it, other than attaching the water container. Everything else is a complete turnkey system.
I'm trying to think again of another parallel, so I'm going to go with this one, and don't throw anything at me. Take a malted milk ball, the candy.
Sure.
You have the malted milk is your water.
That's correct.
The chocolate covering is your diesel fuel.
That's absolutely right.
That's a great example.
When I hand you one, all you see is a little chocolate ball. You have no idea what's in that unless I tell you.
That's correct.
That's malted milk in that malted milk ball. Let's take that molecule of water. Mm-hmm. You're not taking a naked molecule of water and throwing it through the engine and hoping it'll work. You're taking a molecule of water, and it is coated or surrounded with diesel fuel. The engine sees diesel fuel.
That's absolutely correct. The molecules, we won't call them molecules because technically that's not, no, that's fine. The bubbles of water are typically 5 to 10 microns in size, and 40 microns is the thickness of a human hair. So the water bubble is about 5 to 10 microns in size. It is completely encapsulated in diesel fuel. So the engine only sees diesel fuel. And what ends up happening is as soon as it enters into the combustion chamber, that water goes from roughly 160 degrees to about 500 degrees Celsius. So that little bubble of water explodes. And when it explodes, it creates this micro explosion where you get 64 times the number of diesel fuel droplets and about 4 times the surface area. So ultimately, it's a methodology to improve the misting characteristics of the diesel once it goes through the injector. And in doing that, it allows the fuel to combust more completely. It also reduces the EGR temps by about 200 degrees. And in doing that, it reduces NOx by up to 55%, reduces particulate matter and soot by about 40%, depending on the vehicle and the age of the engine. And it also eliminates by 90% or better a number of the aromatics. And the aromatics have been a real subject of discussion of late in a number of environmental communities. And these are the asthma-causing / cancer-causing chemicals that are released in typical diesel fuel when it's combusted. Things like formaldehyde, acrylite, and other chemicals are dramatically reduced. And this is not me talking. These are the EPAs in various countries, including the U.S., such as New Zealand, Australia, and Spain. So it's healthy for the environment. It's giving us improved mileage and improved performance. Because the EGR temps are running lower, typically the water temp drops by 10 degrees. The oil temp drops by 10 degrees. So we're putting less strain on that motor. And the lubricity, which is equally critical, we're finding near zero wear metals and soot being accumulated in the oil. So it's a win-win-win for everybody.
Oh, yeah, and I know we had the discussion last night about the fact that you're a grandpa now and you want to leave the world a little bit better place. I mean, who doesn't, right?
Well, I started with my children, and you become a little more idealistic when you watch your children's children grow up. And, something has to be done. I mean, it's a real issue, and we all recognize that, improving the environment always comes at a cost. Our goal and our objective has always been to make this a win-win. So the opportunity really exists by using this diesel water emulsion to improve the environment, improve the mileage, put more money in the trucker's pocket, and ultimately, have everyone gain and benefit from it. We have a 0% financing available to drivers so that there is a real cash positive environment right from the beginning. So they can purchase a unit, put it on their truck. They're saving between $1,000 and $1,200 a month at 120,000 miles a year. And the payments are around $500, $550 with good credit. Yeah. So they're cash positive right from the beginning.
From the get-go. 2 booths, one inside, one outside. The inside booth is 12060. I never know how to do these zip codes. 12069. 12069. What hall is that one in?
That's in the north wing.
In the north wing. And then, Randy, you'll be outside with the demonstration in booth 9275. But where does that put you on the lot out there?
Entrance.
Right outside the south entrance?
No, it's the north entrance, right by the shuttle exit. So it's literally at the front doors. Look for a big green and blue truck.
Yeah, we're on the sidewalk. You can't miss us.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much for coming over.
Not a problem.
And looking forward to seeing the demo in live.
Yeah, come see us.
But for those who can't make it to Mid-America, go to fiercefuelsystems.com. All the information is there. The video is there. And we'll see you over there at the truck show.
Thank you, Dave. It's been a pleasure and an honor to spend some time with you.
Same here, guys. Lou Conti, Matt Conti, and Randy Sanford from Fierce Fuel Systems. Well, it looks like we're going to wrap things up from here this morning. Turn it back to Michael back in Nashville at the studios, and we'll see everybody over at the Mid-America Trucking Show a little bit later on. From 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, we will be at Wabasto. Yes? Wait, Blue Tiger today. You don't want to know from me. People just tell me, Dave, do this, do that, go here, don't go there. Anyway, go to DaveNemo.com. or facebook.com/Dave Nemo Show. And our schedule is there. And we'll see you over at the Mid-America Trucking Show.